want to know which planet was causing your suffering? How about Earth?
Hey everyone, Brantflakes here, back with a new Chaos Nightmare video. For today's video, I wanted to leak my current plans and teams in order to cheese the Great Rift boss. Obviously, we don't have any strict details on what's happening, and I think we'll only know what the real details are right before the patch hits. So I'm going to be farming a bunch of stuff, and I wanted to just go ahead and tell you guys what my plans were in order to sneak in a quick, hopefully rank 1 on the first hour of the patch hitting. Wouldn't mind obviously being top 10 within the first hour, but really this is just me being bored. I want to optimize and try and predict what was going to be good for the Great Rift boss, and this is kind of an exercise in my prediction skills to see if it's even possible to, jump ahead of the pack and just, sneak in something before all the Tefera whales and Tefera players start filling up the ranks once the patch is more underway and people have been able to farm for Tefera. So if you don't know what the Great Rift is, basically this is going to be the main leaderboard content for Chaos Nightmare, and they have done us a favor of releasing details, or rather very bare minimum details, on the boss very early. The next boss, who's going to be releasing around the 24th or 25th, I believe, is going to be this guy named Colossus, who has a bunch of hands. The short end of it is that he is going to be a part break boss. He has 2 arms and a head. You have to beat the hands in order to hit the head, and then when you hit the head once, his head goes untargetable, and then you go back to killing the hands. And it's very important to note that they outright tell us that there's going to be demerits for hitting the hands in a decent manner, as well as even more punishment for beating one hand before the other hand. And so that will be a part of my planning, and again, no clue if this will be the main version of the final teams. This is just me having a bit of fun and trying to predict stuff. So keep that in mind as you watch this video. Please don't blame me if you waste 10 hours farming this before the patch and then it ends up not being useful. This is just for my personal gain, my personal I guess curiosity to see if I can get rank 1 immediately just with a really strong first hit on the boss. So with that said, going to the actual teams themselves, I'm gonna jump ahead and change the scene. Where is it? That's the wrong button. Uh-oh. There we go. So yeah, first of all, I guess I want to explain really importantly my 9 build. I'm going to be using Massacre on 9 instead of something like Extreme or Flash. And I wanted to make a dedicated video for this just to fully explain my reasoning for using Massacre instead. Now, there is a bit of math that goes on behind this, and really the reason why I want to go for Massacre is because to me it seems like the most the line between the most damage efficient and cost efficient, or rather card efficient and cost efficient measure for 9. Obviously, Extreme will do much more damage, especially if you play the level 5 Extreme on the head, and also Hue Flash is much more mana efficient because you can discount it and play spores and other stuff to make it cheaper. But Massacre to me strikes the balance between where I can hit both hands at the same time, dodge the merit of having to hit the hands too many times, as well as dodge the merit of killing the hands in a decent manner. So to me, 9 is going to be my actual main damage cleave, and I have 2 supports lined up for this team. 9 is going to be the main character, and then I'm going to be playing Orlea almost no matter what. And then I'm deciding between Rei and Beryl. And I'll describe that a bit more as I get through the comps themselves. So for the decks for 9, again, I'll be running Massacre. The math suggests to me that Massacre will be quite okay. Again, not sure if it's that great, but it's doing some pretty healthy damage, and my idea is that I'll make up for the damage loss of playing level 3 Massacre versus level 3 or level 5 Extreme by simply having more buffs available for my team because I am playing this more flexible and mana efficient card. And then with that, we're going to be using Counterblade with the Exhaust version, just because all the other Counterblade versions are pretty middling in my opinion. Not really useful for these flexible team comps, and also I have a lot of cards to exhaust with Orlea creations and potentially a few spores if I end up playing spores in my final builds. And then obviously Fighting Spirit is going to be the mana efficient way of playing Hue Massacre. If you're wondering how I'm able to play all 4 Fighting Spirits with an AP source, the idea is that this build really only works if you get the Arena line or Arena mod that gives you +1 AP when you activate a 3 or mana higher card, and that will activate from playing Fighting Spirit on the Hue Massacre, as long as the Hue costs 3 mana as well. And you can see on the side, I do already have some equipment preloaded. I'm going to be playing Millennium Arbor, Mask of Flames, and Rage Potion. Millennium Arbor is just an easy way of applying Vuln to the hands, so I can constantly get value off of Mask of Flames. And for Rage Potion, there's not many good accessories, I think generically speaking, the only other really good accessory that seems to exist is going to be Enforced Cube, which is pretty bad. And otherwise, like no other accessory actually buffs your damage that much from what I could see. Of course, there might be something I'm missing. There might be another mob in some different chaos, or rather drops from different chaoses that give better damage. But I'm going to be playing strictly in the seasonal because it's a lot easier, and you can guarantee the third copy a lot more easily because the rates seem a lot higher on that event compared to the current zero system events. So that'll be my 9. If you want to look at what I currently have for 9, let me just go ahead and pull up my game really quickly. So I did already farm some versions of these. I'm not going to be chasing like the super perfect build because once again, as I mentioned, I don't think these are going to be like the end all be all like decks for the Great Rift. And obviously I'll be playing, like once we get more details, once we experience the mechanics a bit more, I will be refarming these. This is just me trying to like cheese out an early ranking. But I already do have something kind of for this build. I'm going to be running, you can see that I have all 4 Fighting Spirits, Hue Massacred, the Exhaust, Honed Edge. I do have Residual Herb. For this one in particular, I was trying to greed and get like a Divine Residual Herb to get like draw 1/1 so we can play all of my cards and cycle through my deck a bit more easily. But obviously I missed. Regardless, having the vulnerable one is a-okay for me. And then as for the arena enchantments, you can tell that I'm very low on Fate Memory, so you can actually take a lot of these enchantments. You can see here is where my 1 AP is coming from the enhancement, and then the other 2 options are going to be a bit more damage for free. We also have this like initiation card, which is useless because 9 does have initiation. So, but as we all know, as mentioned or as shown in the preview, there is no tenacity bar to prevent Sentinel from ruling the content. So this is kind of a worthless enchant. So it is what it is. Obviously, I'll be rerunning this more often later. It's just me having like a somewhat usable build in case I hit nothing better in the next few days of farming. Going back, let me click off this or click back on the overlay. All right, actually no, I already showed the Orlea build, right? So the Orlea build was going to be this draw +1. I have my preferred items over here on the left side, Harp of Conflict, Scarlet Cloak, and Nexus, but obviously it's pretty hard roll to hit all of that in one go. So if we check my own Orlea right now, you can see that my Orlea is going to be pretty close to that build, but not quite there. So we can see that I have everything else like the items, but for the equipment, I have a bunch of blues. The reason why I kind of default to Flashbang and Glider's Helmet is because even though this boss is multi-parted and therefore weakened will be kind of useless, and the DR from Glider's Helmet will probably be pretty redundant, this is more just for future-proofing because there will be certain Nebula bosses and certain content that will get their damage heavily reduced by this dual layering of weaken and damage reduction. Obviously, it won't be that relevant in Great Rift, and obviously it takes a long time to hit this build in the first place, so I don't mind the fact that I missed those equipments. But just to show you guys what the BIS is and what I'm running with, just so you can be aware that I'm also okay with running quote-unquote subpar equipment and just rolling with it, because getting the super gigabis is going to be really annoying and really hard. And then back to the Rei versus Beryl options. So obviously I am not including Tefera in this because Tefera will be releasing and I'm trying to rush for that content immediately. So Tefera is her own video, and we'll have another dedicated video when she finally drops and have more information. But for cheesing the Great Rift, Rei and Beryl are my picks. The reason why I'm looking at Rei specifically is mainly because of her passive. So if we go back to the game again, in case you don't know, Rei 6 or Rei E6, Potential 6, or Manifest Ego 6, my bad. At the very last node, she gives you 20% damage to all of your attack cards. So just for existing, just for being your team, she gives a 20% damage multiplier overall. And that is kind of one of the best buffs for 9, period. There are a lot of additive buffs, but if we look at 9's cards and her hues, we can see that the numbers are quite insane, especially for Extreme. It's less so for Massacre because it's a lesser version, but even for Massacre, you can see that at my base level, before I max out the potential, even at level 1, it's 440. 20% of 440 is 88 for free, right? Getting an additive 80 damage for any defense card would almost require you playing an entire Narja Epiphany, and Rei's Wings for free, and it scales up as we go on through the levels of Massacre. 258 is going to be, or 528 is going to be like 100 more damage, 638 is going to be like 120, and then 770 obviously goes up and up. So Rei just naturally existing is going to be quite good for this type of like 2-team setup, especially with high base damages on 9. And if we look at the other parts, she is really just there to cycle. I have 4 snack times. You might notice that one of them is a bit different. This snack time is so that I can exhaust these 2 cards, so I don't have to play them and waste the mana on turn 1. And realistically, the idea of this Rei setup is that I can minimize my odds of drawing bad cards and maximize my odds of drawing snack times so I can play everything else, so I can start cycling and have a really great turn one immediately. Because once again, this is all meant to rush down the Great Rift once. Like, I'm not trying to re-queue the Great Rift. I'm not trying to fight it again. I just want to slap it, grab the high score I can possibly on the first try, and then take the screenshot and run away with the loot, right? So it's not that big of a deal. So that's why I'm going for this Rei build. And the Spore Harvester is kind of optional. Because I'm not running Beryl, I won't have much access to spores. And although spores have been nerfed quite hard, they are still a great way of adding more damage to your combos or to your final hit on the head. Because obviously, or either not obviously, but as far as I'm aware, all the score seems to be from hitting the head as hard as you can. So eking out that bonus from spores being on top of it, whether it's 5%, 10%, even 2 more spores can add 10% more damage overall, which will be a big deal because it's multiplicative with the vulnerable, and that getting that value does matter a ton when you're trying to get every point you can on the first try. And then these gear bags are, again, just here to maximize my card draw on the first turn so I can cycle everything that I need to play a proper turn 1. Now, Beryl is going to be a bit more difficult to build. This is actually not the right Gigabus one. But basically, the idea behind Beryl is that instead of going for Rei and going for a really great turn 1, you're going to be sacrificing your first 2-3 turns in order to grab a really giga strong charge shot. And then you lose the damage overall on 9, obviously, because you no longer have the 20% baseline buffing. But in return, you gain a lot more damage against the head. And the idea with this is that I'm going to have Charge Shot constantly powering up with Guilty Pleasures, turn over turn, until the very last time I think I can hit the head. And then I'm going to blast the head with the superpowered Charge Shot. Because this Charge Shot, I'm going to draw it eventually. It's going to be sitting there eating the retain effects from Guilty Pleasure, eating the end of turn generally. And on top of that, because of Beryl interacting with spores, I will then have a lot of ways to hopefully place a lot more spores than I otherwise should have on the boss's head, especially if I'm going to hit it a few more times. That way, the massacre that I'm getting, that's hopefully level 3, can get, that can eke out that 50% more damage, right? Instead of getting only 2 spores with Rei, I would get maybe 10 spores, which is another layer of essentially Vuln on top of it. And I don't know if I'll be able to hit this build because this does require divines, whereas the Rei one is all divine lists. Obviously, I have a lot of gear bags, but this build, I can miss 1 snack time, I can miss 1 gear bag, I can miss a Spore Harvester, and it'll still function just fine. Whereas with this Beryl one, I kind of have to hit this attack weakness to get the final 25% multiplier on top of it for the Divine Epiphany. Everything else is quite honestly useless. Even this, this reduced cost by 1 is pretty useful because there's a pretty good chance that on the final head strike, I won't be able to get the charge shot off immediately, and I'll have to sacrifice a turn to play it the turn after with 2 mana. But this is kind of the low roll version, ironically enough. The higher roll version that I had, that I leaked a bit earlier, is this one, where instead of having Divine Epiphany on Charge Shot, I instead have Divine Epiphanies on 3 of these Guilty Pleasures. And you can notice that I deleted Opening Found. That's mainly to make more space for spores, I think. I guess for this one, I don't have spores, so I probably have to keep, I have to unepiphany one of these. But I had to fit spores somehow, so I just realized I didn't have spores in here. So just, yeah, pretend I have Opening Found in here, then Spore Harvester. That was a mistake in the pre-planning before I made the video. Because once again, obviously, I'm here to get the access to retain damage. I'm here to generate some spores for free. And then the reason why this build is here is because with this plus 3 AP from Guilty Pleasure, I'm actually able to cut one of the Fighting Spirits from my 9. And then once again, with the plus 1 AP from the Arena equip, which is signified by this Divine Epiphany, I'm then able to stack my Beryl's damage further by playing Unlimited Firepower. And I did a very quick test. I didn't actually confirm with numbers themselves, but I did a very quick test. And it seems like in the buff list, at least, Unlimited Firepower is a properly stacking card. So then the idea here is that if I hit this Gigabus Beryl version, I'm able to further stack my damage on Beryl by, having even more damage from Unlimited Firepower while still being able to draw through everything. Because I guess I didn't mention this earlier, but the main reason why I only have 4 Fighting Spirits and I have a bunch of even draw cards on Orlea, and why I'm running a 0-card Rei deck to begin with, is because I want to be able to guarantee that I play all 4 Fighting Spirits and all 4 Growth Accelerations no matter what every turn. And so therefore, if I want to play this Beryl card, which is Unlimited Firepower, without getting Divine Epiphany plus 1 draw, then I have to drop one fighting instinct or fighting spirit because now that fourth slot is being filled by this unlimited firepower. And so this way I can buff up the charge shot even more and get a meteor slap on the Colossus's head when it's revealed for the final time. And then hopefully again with more spores, with some other things, and with opening found, I guess the idea here is that I would be able to play the opening found for the earlier head reveal. Again, if I'm assuming that I can see the head 3 times, then my plan is to hit the opening found with that, or like hit the head with the first opening found, and then redraw the opening found at some point and just ignore it for the rest of the fight. But obviously, I'm still not really sure about this one because it's a lot harder to hit, and again, it loses value really fast considering the fact that Tefera will probably be replacing the Beryl / Rei slot for my team, and so I don't want to spend too much time chasing this like super funny Beryl setup when hopefully just having this Rei being very solid will get me the screenshot that I want, because that's all I'm chasing in the end. I'm chasing the screenshot. And there is another variant with this where I go for Sadism. If you don't know, Sadism is a neutral card, and the reason why I want Sadism is because with Sadism, you are able to control your vulnerable application. So as far as I can tell, based on the wording and how items work in this game, or rather how like ordering works in this game, it appears that the boss probably cannot get vulnerable applied from Arbor, from the like the blue Arbor, Millennium Arbor thing. And so if you want to apply Vuln to the boss's head, you would either have to go the growth acceleration that costs 1 mana and therefore makes it much harder to play all of your 9 hues. Obviously, Orlea has this softy buff when you retain a softy, add Vuln. Like this does exist obviously, but if I play that softy instead of these 0 cost growth excels, then I have to find even more mana somehow, which then means I have to play characters like Mika potentially, like Narja. And my issue with Mika and Narja is that Mika obviously doesn't provide damage, and Narja, while she could maybe work, I think her damage improvement is actually notably worse than even just generic Rei. And so that's why I'm going to go for this 0 mana draw 1 growth excel, because obviously it also is a bit more flexible for other content. But I do think that the fix I would have to apply Vuln to the boss would be through Sadism. And then the way the Sadism works is that it does reduce 1 random card by 1. And so I don't think you can play this with Beryl, because Beryl does have random cards there that would eat the Sadism reduction. And so instead you have to play it on Rei. And then if you have a Sadism on Rei, like this, again, very specifically, I really don't think I'm going to hit this, but I just want to point out there anyways, in case people want to see my true gigabits that I will be looking for. It would be Rei with 1 Sadism, and then 9 with 1 Sadism. And then that way I can drop the 4th Fighting Spirit. And then also that way I can play like a 4th card that exists that would help me do a bit more damage over time, whether that's going to be like another controller card. Let's say like I just like end up using Rei to do some more damage. Obviously this is not going to be the final decision, but it's like something I would look at, like either Dark Condensation to do more buffs. Maybe it's going to be, you know, Winds of Relief just to maybe, I'm assuming there's going to be some stas ailment shenanigans going on, so it'd probably end up looking like this once I get my full build. Like this way I would be able to like this is probably what I'd be looking for overall, just having more like another Divine Epiphany. Again, very niche and very hard to find, but this is technically possible, and this would be what I would like if I could hack the game and just load in to Great Rift immediately with what I wanted. This is what I would want to see on Rei. And so yeah, again, this is more of just sort of for fun build. If you guys have your own plans to cheese the Great Rift immediately, please let me know, because I'm very interested in seeing it. And I just wanted to like release like a proper theory crafting yapping video, even though I don't know if people will click on it. But if you are at this point in the video and you're listening to me talk about the conclusion, let me know if you would love to see more of these type of videos, because this is kind of what I really want to do for CZN, just talk about random things that interest me a lot and theory craft and see what potentials we can reach with this game, instead of just uploading like generic highlight videos and all that. So yeah, let me know. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you guys learned something if you made it this far, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.